Hello everyone, today I have another journal to share. Now this one I love how it turned out. So this, let me give you the measurements real quick here. It measures approximately 5.5 inches by about 4.5. 4.5 by 5.5. So it's a little journal, single signature. For the closure here, I've used some of this ribbon, and then this is a wood piece that I've wrapped around it, pulled it tight, and tied a bow. On the cover here is some vintage crocheted lace. I believe it's crocheted. There's some rose trim here that's over this ribbon here. And then I have this little cardboard sewing spool die cut and a chipboard button here. And there's the back. So going inside, just untie the bow. It's pretty snug. Then you can pull this all the way off. This is a little wooden embellishment that I've had for some time. Why is that not showing up? There we go. And I kind of like using it that way, but I don't know if everyone would know how to retie it. So this journal is made out of a bag. Now this bag I got from my friend Liz. Thank you, Liz. And I also kind of was inspired by Liz's recent paper bag journal. That one is very different than this one. It was made out of craft bag, and I started 3 journals, and so I have another one that's more similar, but that was the original inspiration. I got out my bags because I wanted to make a journal with a bag cover. And I have adhered this end. It was open here. I just closed it, and then before I glued it shut, I made a little slit here so that this could be a pocket. And here's some ephemera. This side is Tsunami Rose ephemera. And I'm going to move this back a little so it can be in the light a little. On the back, I have stitched it to some scrapbook paper that looks like a sewing pattern. Then I have, I think, yes, this is one of the stickers. So I've used this Tim Holtz sticker pad a lot in this journal, and so you can see this is the page. That's where that one came from. And I'll show you what I did with the ones that I didn't just use as a sticker later on. So that pops back in there. Here's some ledger paper that I've stitched on this side in order to create a pocket here. Some more of the Tsunami Rose ephemera. That is, of course, coffee dyed. And on this pocket, I stitched this little zigzag on this kind of stretchy lace, and then I glued it onto here. So you can lift it up and right underneath. I think I saw Paula Lennon do that recently, and also Amity Bloom uses a lot of fabric in her journals. That's always very inspiring. This little tag came from Liz, the paper project, also. And then I have one of these bulb pins, clothing type pins, a vintage button, and this little bauble was also in a collection of the vintage buttons that I was gifted from a friend. And then there's just this little scrap of green trim there. Scrap of scrapbook paper here that's been sprayed with Tattered Angel spray, and some more vintage ribbon here stitched on the side. This was a music sheet that was printed out, and I sprayed it up with some coffee stain. Added this trim here with stitching and to close the pocket. Here's a vellum journal card that I've had for a while. I picked those up at Tuesday morning a long time ago. Some more coffee dyed scrap paper. And there's also some washi in a couple places. I just used these two because they were the most fabric-like of washis that I had. There's kind of a faint doily imprint on one, and then the other looks sort of like burlap. So, and this here is actually a clothing tag, and it's, if you can't tell, it's kind of a canvas material. And so I've included that. I've been hanging on to those neat clothing tags that I've come across, and this was how it was attached to the clothing originally. Now here's the other idea from this Tim Holtz sticker pad. So I took these stickers and just stuck them on. This one is scrapbook cardstock, and I'm using it as ephemera in the journal. Here's a book page and then some more washi, a hanger, not clothespin, paper clip hanger. I think those might have been Tim Holtz, but I'm not 100% sure. And then, actually I'm not going to take that off. This is a die cut scrap from some kit I had. Here's another one of those stickers. Now this one I put onto some coffee dyed paper scraps that I had. Here I've stitched some scrap trims and ribbons and a little bit of that lace. I have a glassine bag here. This is an epoxy sticker that I also had in my stash of scraps. This is from a Smash, little mini Smash paper pad. And I kind of was going with a green and browns theme, creams and browns. So that's why I pulled that one out to use it. Here, this is coffee dyed on the back. This also was from one of the little scrapbooking kit that I had. Same as the spool of thread. It's just a little paper die cut there. This is the Tsunami Rose printable. And then I have another clothing tag. This one I believe I've gessoed so you can write over it easily. And isn't that cool how this is wrapped, and that was all like that on the piece of clothing originally. And here's another one of those stickers. Oops, I'm way down here, aren't I? Sorry about that. And this is backed onto some scrap spray paper. So paper, like copy paper that I'd put underneath things that I was spraying. And then there's some spraying done on the back there. Here's another of those epoxy stickers. And some adhesive crochet trim there. This neat testing paper that I'd picked up at the thrift store a while back. Here is one of those envelopes that I've been using, and this stamp here is a 7 Gypsies stamp. And then these other little ones are these peg stamps. This is, I think, this is the whole set right here. And I've used those a couple times in the journal. Oh yeah, I've had these stickers too, came from like a scrapbook page that had stickers. So there's all kinds of scraps in this journal. Here's the other peg stamps there. Here's another one of those stickers from the Tim Holtz backed onto the scrapbook cardstock. And this is, I believe, just a small piece of Tim Holtz ephemera from one of his kits or collections. And this, what is, oh, this is from that other scrapbooking kit, the little one. Now, let's see, this, maybe I can take this off. Oh, it's got something on it. This is a really tight paper clip, so I don't want to damage the paper, because I have been known to do that before. It's tough. That's what it looks like off. Then this flips out, a lot of spraying there, real pretty. On the back there was this piece of ephemera. I believe this is from the Tim Holtz collection as well. Other side of the glassine bag and another epoxy sticker. I think this is the Tim Holtz little ephemera. And on this side, this was from that Tim Holtz, and I just inked it up a bit with some distress ink. This was a neat little idea that I had. I think this came in some kind of pack that I got at the thrift store, and it's very vintage. And I just thought, oh, I'll just make a color photocopy on my printer. And that's what I did here. And I used cardstock, just stuck a piece of like cardstock in the printer tray, and then made a color photocopy. And that is my little belly band there. And I really like how that turned out. So here's another one of those stickers with the cardstock on the back. This is definitely inspired by Amity Bloom and her collections of fabric that she does in her journals, and these are all 3 of these pieces: the burlap, the crocheted lacy trim, and this piece of, this is actually an upholstery type or decorator's fabric that I made pillows out of it a long time ago. We're talking at least 10 years ago, and had some scraps, but the fabric was so beautiful, of course I kept it, and so I have some small scraps, and So that has special meaning to me there, and I've put them together here, and I just, again, I believe I stitched the 3 of them together and then glued them onto the page. Here's another bulb pin with a little tiny piece of the Tim Holtz ephemera that I've put an eyelet through, and then this little bauble here. And I've seen several people doing this, the little collections on the bulb pins, so that is an awesome idea that I'd like to incorporate myself. Here's another one of those stickers, and this one is on the coffee dyed paper with a little bit of the ghost doily image there. This little die cut I've had for a long time. I think that it was too small for what I originally cut it out for on the Cricut, and been hanging on to it. I've been wanting to do a sewing themed journal, but I don't have a lot of like stamps and papers and stuff, so anyway, this was time to use it. It was in this little box that I showed you before of my tiny scraps. And then here is a piece of Tsunami Rose ephemera. I had to cut it down a bit to fit in my pocket, but then I just inked the edges. And some little ball trim here in that creamy color. There's some more spraying. This was from some scrapbook paper or something. I've had it for a while, and it's just lightweight paper, scrapbook paper, and it looks like the zigzag stitching. I glued that on there. Another of the ledger paper with this same lace here. This is another clothing tag, and again, it's kind of a thick canvas. And then also, oh, I never got that out. I have a magazine that's from the 50s. I think it's called Quick Magazine. This was an article in it, and so I had to cut it down, unfortunately, to fit in here, but I stitched it onto this scrapbook paper and made it a little piece of ephemera. Stick that back in there. It does stick out just a bit from the top, but I didn't want to cut her head off or cut any more off of the article, so I said, okay, that's good. Now this is the back of the bag here, where the bottom of it would be, and I just cut it open. And there was this, can you see this? Yes. Piece of cardboard in there. I left that in there because I thought you could make it almost a dual pocket there, but I didn't put anything in there, and so that's the pocket there. And then I have put some lacy, oops, what's going on here? Oh, it got all out of order. There's this lacy trim here, and then some more of the adhesive crochet trim, and some more of that vintage ribbon there. Another of these bulb pins with just a tiny scrap of vintage lace there, one of these tiny tags, and a little bead. And then I took this little, this is like an acetate that came from that one kit that I had that had the sewing theme stuff. Then this is a tiny digital printable, I don't remember exactly where that came from. It might have been Free Pretty Things for You, or Call Me Victorian, maybe. Anyway, that's a tiny little square I put there, and I made this acetate part a little tiny tuck spot. This is another one of those stickers backed onto my out-of-frame scrapbook paper. This came off of some clothing or something, and it's one of those retail clothing tags. I just put that on there. And this, again, was from the kit where this came from. Cute little sheep, and yeah, let's put it back the way it was, huh? Looks really cute like that. And that's it. I love how it turned out, and I guess I hadn't decided to use this vintage lace on the outside until after I was working on it, and I'm kind of messy, and I got some of that Fabri-Tac glue on the back, and that can be hard to get off, and so I just decided to cover the whole outside with this, and you can't even tell. So I think it turned out great. I definitely want to do another sewing themed one. Of course, I'll have to collect some more sewing themed things. This one was fun, and I hope you enjoyed taking a look. Have a great day. Bye.